Alright, so I did not make this video in my car on the way home because it's hot here in Houston, Texas, and had the AC blowing. And on top of that, I am so excited / invested in this dream that I wanted to be able to focus on my driving at the time. So I think, short story, if this were my dream, I would say I am being called in some fashion, some way, to speak up for the divine masculine, whatever that means to me. So, long story, if you're ready for it. This is like, so it speaks to what I've been dealing with lately. It's because I have a strong masculine energy in my chart. And I recently had a superpower reading by Lacey Free. And I have one of you guys in the Energy Tribe to thank for that introduction to that podcast. So I signed up for the reading. And one of my superpower readings, as you probably learned from one of the podcast episodes if you listened recently, was penis power. So there's this strong drive within me, and instead of demonizing it and afraid it's scaring people off, just embracing it, celebrating it, allowing it to trigger whoever it needs to trigger, and yeah, just celebrating it. Okay, that being said, I also realized that in order to celebrate the masculine energy within me, I needed to feel safe with it. I needed to celebrate the masculine energy and feel safe with it, and that way my feminine energy could work and be integrated in that as well. My feminine side needed to trust the masculine side. So, I heard recently in a podcast that today's times, this is a woman saying it, she said today's times are really, honestly challenging and difficult for white, I think she said for men, just men in particular, to be a man in today's times, specifically probably white, cisgendered. And I completely agree with that. I believe we are in some times of toxic femininity. And guys, I just keep looking at this little wayward hair. Sorry about that. Okay, we are in times of toxic femininity. And because like everything's, we're gonna throw out the patriarchy and capitalism, etc., and whatever labels you want to throw on it. But at the same time, as they're labeling these things, certain things as bad, the things that they are labeling as just innately nurturing and good, the mother type, the feminine, we know honestly that not all women are nurturing and kind, right? So I even had a guest in, it was the episode called Rabbit Holes with the queer therapist who lives in the woods. And she was doing some man bashing, specifically for white cisgendered men. And guess what I have in my dream, if this were my dream? I have a white manly man. Like, he has facial hair. I know sometimes I've heard it mentioned, so maybe you have too, when men shave their faces, it's a way of feminizing or giving them a baby face, making them less masculine, right? So regardless of how true that is, I definitely think that symbolism here in the dream is awesome. So we have someone with long, we have facial hair, beard, etc. And if we think about, okay, so what type of white men have this? Okay, let me just skip ahead. Okay, so the ginger in there, I have lots of gingers in my family. So I know all about the associations with gingers, right? They have a temper. And a lot of times tempers are demonized, right? It's not okay to have anger. And so to me, it harkens to like these, what are they called? Like the Norwegian, the Vikings, right? With the red hair. Like they were they just had this wildness to them, this barbarianism to them, right? So I think that in my dream, that is who this man, this white, red-headed, facial-haired man is symbolizing, is masculinity. And in my dream, I have just come to terms with my own masculine energy because I'm representing him in this dream, remember? So I have just come to terms with him when he is pronounced guilty. And it is this courtroom, right? Which decides, there's evidence weighed. And I think collectively we have demonized a lot of the masculine energies, not just men, white cisgendered men to begin with. And I will just pause and say that in the podcast, you'll hear me step on my soapbox and kind of speak up for white cisgendered men. So I almost, with my open solar plexus in human design, which is afraid of truth's consequences, I considered removing that whole piece. But I didn't, and I don't want to say it was completely due to my strong moral fabric. I think I couldn't take any of that out without it not making other parts make sense. So I had a strong encouragement to keep the part in. And if I was going to keep her part in, I had to put my part in, my 2 cents. So, and in my rebuttal, I basically said that I felt that white cisgendered men had been very maligned, and that the men that I had a pleasure of being in relationship with or knowing are a lot more layered and faceted than society gives them credit for. Anyway, if you want to hear my little rant, you can listen to the episode. But okay, going back to my dream. So evidence has been weighed, and my client, I'm representing him, right? There's this attachment, a reflection. I am reflecting this masculine energy. It's pronounced guilty when he's innocent, and he's the one who's actually crying and showing emotion, and like the women that are supposed to be the ones who are nurturing and all those things, it is toxic. I loved that milk showed up. Milk, mother's milk. It is supposed to be nurturing. It's one of those things that is very associated with the feminine. And guess what? It was not nurturing. It was toxic. It was acidic. And not only was it not giving nourishment, even the leftovers, like the trash of the food, because I thought that was such an interesting detail about what I accidentally threw or accidentally dropped into the milk was like a leftover sandwich box or something like that. So not only is it not giving nourishment, it is actually eating up and destroying whatever remnants or bits of food could be left over. And I am feeling this lack of injustice, and I turn, and my mom, you have this mom figure. I have this mom figure, and I'm looking to see if she's able to feel, like, see and sense what I'm feeling. But I know in reality, like, my mind picked this person for a reason, is because even though she is in that role of mother, of the feminine, of the nurturer, she has this disorder where she only thinks about herself. She is not going to be able to see my emotions and vibrate with me and see me, because all she sees is herself. So, and I am wanting to reach out to this condemned masculine energy, but yet I'm afraid to, because security. I'm afraid of the security because society is constructing it in such a way that the masculine is not safe. Men are not safe. White cisgendered men are not safe. And again, it's like in my dream, it was a very toxic environment. It's a toxic femininity. It takes both. And here we are trying to not just bring the feminine up to an equal partner. We're trying to elevate it and condemn a whole half of our own beings. And it's an injustice to ourselves, to our own energy, and to the world at large. So I'm afraid of showing support because the security, I'm afraid they would intervene. And what I found was really interesting, that my subconscious chose as the judges were these really tall black men. And I likened it to some tribe, some African tribe, I think. So this reminds me of something I had heard previously, is that we often don't want to speak up for the little guy or for something that's been deemed wrong or been condemned, because we ourselves don't want to be ostracized from the community, from the tribe, because they say, like, evolutionary wise, if you were ostracized and you were kicked out of the tribe, guess what? You didn't survive. You didn't have the resources you needed to live. And so it is very instinctually embedded in us to be a part of the team, to be a part of the fabric, to not be ostracized, so that our chances of surviving are increased, because in community we have better chances. So the fact, and so black often symbolizes the subconscious. So I might not even realize that I am hesitating to show support or embody some of these more masculine energies because of a socially constructed condemnation of that energy. But I may not realize that I'm afraid to show my support or embody that because of a subconscious fear, a tribalistic fear of again, really evolutionary. It's basic, like it's very understandable that I might be kicked out or arrested or whatever. The law enforcement part of it might swoop in. And yeah, the judges are very, very strong. So I think that reflects to me that this fear is very strong, and it's very muscled, and it's very not held to polite niceties. Again, it's very tribal, like decision and done, right? So I hope I'm making my point clear, but I just feel like I do need to come to terms with how big is my fear, my primal fear of being misunderstood or cut out of the tribe by embodying and or showing support for the masculine. So what I would suggest for myself in my dream is to celebrate some of the more masculine energies. So for example, myself, definitely integrating the feminine, but also it's okay to feel a sense of satisfaction or pride in something that you've built. It is okay to feel anger. It is okay to embody and experience a lot of these things that have been condemned by society. And I think I'm saying like the same things over and over again, so I'm probably tired of hearing what I had to say, but I just got excited about it. I just want to thank you for dreaming for the collective, for this group. I could definitely see some of my own experiences reflected in this.